This is Robert Stellick from Blue Planet Surf, and it's another segment of our downwind paddling tips with some concrete tips for the Hawaii Kai run, in particular for the downwind run from Hawaii Kai to Fort DeRussy, which is going to be next weekend at the Battle of the Paddle. So hopefully I can give you some good tips for that race here. And I myself am a visual learner, so I like to use maps, and I made a drawing here. It's not to scale, but it'll help me kind of explain what I'm talking about a little bit. If you look at the wind conditions, there's a lot of indicators when you're on the beach. One is looking at the water and the texture on the water, the white caps, or just the little bumps and wind on the water. If you look at the palm trees, you'll see the direction of the wind and the wind speed kind of from how the trees are moving. Other things are just looking for the wind line on the water, cloud cover, see how the high clouds are moving. If there's low clouds, high clouds, you can kind of see the speed of the clouds moving. So there's a lot of indicators that can tell you where the wind's coming from, how the wind's moving, and so on. This is not to scale, but where we start in Hawaii Kai, where the race starts, the wind is almost straight offshore to the blinker buoy. And usually the start is like a range from here to here where you can line up to start. And so if you're taking this line and the wind's coming like this, you're mostly paddling on the right side, and it's a little bit harder to take this line than if you line yourself up with the wind and you can go straight to the blinker buoy. So kind of pay attention to exactly how the wind direction is blowing towards the blinker buoy and try to line yourself up with that for a good start and to go straight downwind. Now what happens, even though the trade winds are kind of east-northeasterly here, there's Cocoa Head and Cocoa Crater that kind of block the wind. So what happens is some of the wind goes this way, some of the wind goes this way. So as it comes around Cocoa Head, the wind here close to the beach is almost straight offshore. And then as you get out past the blinker buoy, the wind kind of comes back together again and has more like the direct flowing directly towards Black Point this direction, okay? So what happens, you take start straight out to the blinker buoy, take a right turn, and then you look for Black Point, and that's kind of your straight line. And the straight line, A to B, a straight line is always the shortest distance. So unless you get an advantage from taking an inside line or an outside line, taking a straight line is always going to be the shortest distance, So a lot of times people will either take an outside line to try to catch more of that, get out to the wind line earlier, catch more of the outside bumps, or they take an inside line hoping to get a little bit of a push here at Black Point at the end, tends to push you out. Or you can even go outside first, try to get to the wind line, and then kind of come inside towards the end. It depends also what kind of board you use. Like with a ruddered board, it's a little bit easier maybe to take the outside line. With no rudder, it's probably better to stay inside, because then otherwise you have to kind of fight the wind towards the end. So there'll be some basically flat water always on the inside because the wind has no fetch over the water, but as the wind fetches over the water, you'll start to get some small bumps, and then they get a little bit bigger towards the blinker buoy. So you already have some bumps that you can catch as you get out towards the blinker buoy. Then once you get a little bit further out, there's the wind that comes around this way that's created some wind swell that's usually a little bit bigger, longer wavelength, and moving faster. So these are kind of some slow moving bumps. These are kind of the little bit faster moving bumps. And then if there's a south swell coming in, there's like open ocean swells that are coming from a distance, and those are really long wavelength and moving really fast. The trick to connect bumps is to kind of take the slower, shorter wavelength bumps, try to get into one of those and use that speed to pull yourself into one of these bigger bumps. And then if you have enough speed, you can sometimes catch one of these open ocean swells and just get a lot of speed with one of these bumps, even just for a few seconds. Sometimes you can't stay on them very long because they're moving a lot faster. But then as you fall off the big bump, the trick is to try to get back onto one of the smaller bumps and maintain that speed so you can kind of do it all over again without like totally dropping off the bump, losing all your speed, and having to start over from a slower speed. And that's called connecting bumps. And the OC1 paddlers are really good at that. But basically the trick is just keep connecting bumps and trying to maintain that high speed. You know, there's all these valleys coming down from the mountains here. So that as the trade winds go over the mountains, they come shoot down these valleys, and like there's some spots where there'll be more wind coming out from kind of side offshore, and those winds will also create these little bumps. So it's never like there's just one bump direction or swell direction. There's always a lot of different bumps moving at different speeds. So really focus on what's going on in front of your board and try to get into the fastest moving bumps. And the goal is to move as much as you can with the speed of the ocean and kind of use that to your advantage. And okay, so once we get closer to Black Point, the open ocean swells kind of bounce off here by Kahala, and then they come, and then always a little bit of waves coming back out this way. Then there's also these swells that come and hit Black Point and bounce off this way. So as you get closer to Black Point, there's this area here that gets really messy because there's water moving in all directions. So that's a place where I used to always fall off a lot. But if you really pay attention, the bumps will still be there pushing you along. It's just that they're much harder to see because there's so many other waves going on. But so what you really want to focus on is just the bumps that are moving in your direction, and they're still there. You just have to, and you can still catch the bumps and kind of bounce over the other waves. Keep your knees soft and kind of keep that flow going. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a push going out. If you have an inside line, you get a little bit of a push here right before Black Point and pushing you out towards Black Point, and kind of sometimes guys that take an outside line will be a little bit faster at first, but then the guys with the inside line have a little bit of an advantage right here, it seems like. So, and then there's usually, once you get past Black Point, there's some good bumps that kind of go straight towards Lighthouse. They're pretty fast, and there's the Diamond Head breaks are here, and then there's like the breaks at outside Lighthouse. And that's kind of what you want to keep an eye out on for is where the outside break at Lighthouse is, because that's kind of what you want to aim for. You can stay pretty close inside, but you want to go around the outside of the outside break of Lighthouse, and then that's where you can kind of start turning in towards Waikiki after Lighthouse. And then sometimes you can kind of catch a wave at Lighthouse and kind of go in a little bit. And this is where kind of the wind goes around Diamond Head, comes around like this. The wind hits Diamond Head and it has to go around. So there's wind coming this way, and then once you get to Kaimana, there's almost straight offshore wind coming out from the other side of Diamond Head. And then there's this area here where there's almost no wind or swirly wind. So once you get past, in this low wind area, you just want to be ready for this offshore wind that's going to hit you outside Kaimana Beach. So if you're taking a line too far outside and you're trying to stay way outside of the waves, you're going to have to paddle almost straight into the wind right here. And there's like straight offshore wind. So what works better is if you can stay close to the inside. There's usually some waves breaking further outside and then on the inside, but there's kind of an area in between the waves that you can kind of sneak through, get close to the windsock outside Kaimana Beach, and then the reef kind of wraps around towards canoes, and you want to kind of dodge the reef here, and sometimes you can even get a couple little waves along there. And then once you get closer to Waikiki, these buildings kind of block the wind, so there's kind of swirly wind or light winds on the inside, versus further outside there's still pretty strong offshore wind. So if you're paddling out here, you'll have to fight the strong offshore wind, versus if you get closer to the inside, you'll have lighter winds. So I would recommend trying to stay more on the inside, and then just kind of cut through the waves at a good spot and try to catch some waves pushing you in, and then finish here at Fort DeRussy Beach, and hopefully you'll do well. Then, that concludes my tips on the Hawaii Kai Run. Thank you. Thanks for listening.